paddock here at Belmont and backyard will be filled to capacity, no doubt about that, this coming Saturday in the 53rd Mother Goose with the Preakness winner, Rachel Alexandra, making her debut at beautiful Belmont. Hello again, everybody. We're coming to you from Belmont Park here on MSG Plus, Thoroughbred Weekly. I'm Jason Blewett, my co-host Andy Serling, and what a day we're coming up on with the filly, the champion filly, the Preakness, making her first start since that historic win at Pimlico.
Right, and her first start in New York. She's never run in New York before, and we're all really excited and looking forward to her running. There just aren't that many horses that capture the public's imagination the way she has, and with her win, not only the Kentucky Oaks, the way she devastated the field, but also her Preakness win has really made her a superstar in racing.
And I think a lot of us, after they decided to bypass the Belmont Stakes, as much as I would have liked to have seen her run in the third leg of the Triple Crown, I think it was the right decision, get her back in with the 3-year-old fillies, and this actually seemed the Mother Goose like the most logical spot to get her back in the game.
Absolutely. Right now, we were sorry she didn't run the Belmont a few weeks ago, though I happen to agree with what your sentiments. We're very happy she didn't run the Belmont now because we're going to have a very exciting day on Saturday.
And we're happy you joined us. We've got a top show, of course, races of the week. We'll make a rare trip down to Colonial Downs. They had a couple of nice turf races, Delaware Park, in fact. We'll get to see Umbrato Bell and a few other horses. And it was on Friday, a historic night at Churchill Downs. Beneath the Twin Spires, they raced under the lights for the first time. But no doubt about it, Rachel Alexandra, front and center, and she's just done so much in her career thus far.
Yeah, she really has. I mean, she really came alive last year at the end of the year. She had a second-place finish where she was best at Churchill. She devastated a field to close out her 2-year-old career. Another Medaglia d'Oro, who's like the hottest sire on the planet right now, and was a very terrific horse, by the way. And even before the Kentucky Oaks, I mean, she was just winning with the absolute utmost of ease. But it was in the Kentucky Oaks when she really burst in the scene, when people who weren't following racing as closely as some of us really saw her in this Kentucky Oaks. And while the second choice, JUSTWHISTLEDIXIE, who may be running in the Mother Goose, was scratched in this race, so her competition wasn't strong. She won by over 20 lengths.
And there was a lot of talk after this race, and then having watched the Derby with Mind That Bird 24 hours later, people saying that, you know what, she might have been the best 3-year-old running on Friday or Saturday at Churchill Downs. And this obviously set her up 15 days later for that historic win in the second jewel of the Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes at Pimlico. She set that hot pace, vied outside, big drama, put him away, and then held off the Derby winner, Mind That Bird, in just a race that, I don't care, 30 years from now, you will never forget this stretch drive.
No doubt about it. She was terrific winning this race. And it's funny, you see the two videos, and coming in the stretch in the Preakness, it looked like very similar to the field she blew away in the Kentucky Oaks. But this was a very well-earned victory in the Preakness, because if you look at how that race was run, every horse that was near the pace with Rachel Alexandra, who was right on the pace, finished basically nowhere. And all the horses that did well in there, save Rachel Alexandra, came from well back in the running of the race. Rachel Alexandra didn't just win that Preakness. She earned the victory. She was the best horse in that race. And right now, you're right, there's a very big argument. She's absolutely the best 3-year-old running in the country of either sex.
And of course, after that monstrous victory in the Kentucky Oaks, she changed hands. She was bought privately by Jess Jackson, who campaigned Curlin a few years ago, at least even last year and the year before, as a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old. And she was turned over to trainer Steve Asmussen, who was coming off his first Eclipse Award as a champion trainer. And the guy has just got a huge, huge barn. He's put up some big numbers here in New York. And I think in New York, as far as his top horse, we're most certainly familiar with the exploits of Curlin.
Absolutely. We saw Curlin run here quite a few times last year. We saw him in the Man of War when he tried the turf, and we saw him up in Saratoga in the Woodward, and we saw him in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. And of course, you know, Steve Asmussen took over the training from Hal Wiggins of this horse, and Hal Wiggins did a tremendous job. And I'm sure that if we were able to ask Steve, he would give the credit to Hal Wiggins. I mean, we're not taking anything away from the job Steve does, because obviously he does a very good job with his horses, but Hal Wiggins is the one who had her for the majority of her career and helped develop her. He's taken over a finished product, and quite a finished product she is.
Now, there are a few brave souls lining up in the starting gate against Rachel Alexandra. One of them flashing, a Darley homebred by AP Indy, is a graded stakes winner here at Belmont Park. This is her on Kentucky Derby Day, angling outside and actually making a couple of different moves in this race as she wears down Starlight and gets up to win the Nassau County. And I think you and I are both fans of this horse, A, because she's good, and B, it was nice to see her winter in New York and actually turn out to be okay.
I agree. And, you know, we liked her. Look, you always like to be right at the racetrack, and this was a horse who we thought was very impressive when she broke her maiden back in Aqueduct. I guess it was in November, and she had some trouble and was very uncomfortable in her stakes debut in her next start, but since then she's been flawless. And in this race in Nassau County, and I know she beat Starlight, who didn't run well at Philly the next time, but she did something sort of exceptional. She dueled with Starlight because Starlight is a very, very tough speed horse, and she didn't want to let Starlight get away. So dueled with her on the inside. Starlight took over top of the stretch. You and I, fans of Flashing, just figured the race was over, and she came back on and beat her. Now, Starlight may have tired, but she was used hard Flashing early to keep her honest and won. Look, it's unlikely she's up to the task of beating Rachel Alexandra, but I think we're all looking forward to finding out where does she stand.
Now, trainer Todd Pletcher, who himself owns a few Eclipse Awards as the nation's champion trainer and has trained his fair share of top three-year-old fillies, Rags to Riches, a Shadow comes to mind. This is the Pletcher-trained MALIBU Prayer winning at the Big A.
She looked good this day when she won by 13, and she came back and went to Philly Park. And Todd does ship horses down to Philly Park fairly frequently, and went through her non-winners of one condition. Now, obviously, she's another one biting off a lot in this race, and I think that the thought for a number of these horses is trying to get Grade 1 stakes placed or show in here, and it's hard to imagine she's a little legitimate threat to Rachel Alexandra, but you know, it's nice to find out, like we said with Flashing, where some of these horses stand, because when you have such a high benchmark with a horse like Rachel Alexandra, maybe she does beat this field by 10, 15 lengths, but I think we'll see a little more competition, certainly more than the Kentucky Oaks.
Looking at some New York breds, we've seen some big stakes wins at the meet. Commentator comes to mind, perhaps driven by success in the Shadwell Metropolitan. We've got a New York bred who may very well take on Rachel Alexandra. Don't forget Gil, named after Gil the Whitecap, who's been working at NYRA since the days of a Seabiscuit, and this is her winning down at Tampa Bay Downs. She's an okay filly trained by Mark Hennig.
She is a nice horse. Now, she had a very disappointing run in the Black-Eyed Susan in her last start, and I think she was around 3-1 that day and just never got in the race. But sometimes when the performances are as bad as hers was in the Black-Eyed Susan, you can tend to forgive them. You don't want to see two of them in a row, and we hope she runs better, but the fact that she's running in this race is a good sign. She's a talented horse, and I'm sure Gil will be excited to see her running, and if you ever run into Gil and you want to hear about the old days and old days at Jamaica, he's one of the more interesting people to talk to at the racetrack.
For a chalk-eating dog like myself, I was really bummed out on Kentucky Oaks morning when I found out Just Whistle Dixie was scratched out of the Oaks, because I was so ready to punch that Rachel Alexandra Just Whistle Dixie exacta. She missed that race. Kier McLaughlin freshened her up, brought her back on the Belmont Stakes undercard. She was odds-on in the Acorn. The Bob Baffert filly, another daughter of Medallia d'Or, in fact, got away in the Acorn, and I thought Just Whistle Dixie ran okay considering the way the main track played on Belmont Day.
I couldn't agree more, absolutely. And, you know, even though we have a horse that missed a big race like the Kentucky Oaks and comes back, it was 5 weeks later, but you miss races with an issue, you can't expect them to run their best race, and like you said, she chased outside in a race that was won wire to wire. She's a nice horse, Just Whistle Dixie. I really hope she runs in this race. We'll get the meeting in the Mother Goose that we missed in the Kentucky Oaks.
And we're certainly glad you're on MSG Plus right now, and MSG Plus will be the place to be if you can't make it to Belmont Park this Saturday, Mother Goose Day. We will have a 30-minute live telecast beginning at 5 p.m. right here on MSG Plus of obviously the Preakness winner, Rachel Alexandra, and Kentucky Oaks champion, will take center stage. I'd imagine she's probably in the realm of 1 to 5, maybe even 1 to 9 in the Mother Goose, and it'll be a fun day here at Belmont Park and on MSG Plus. And I think track management here at Belmont has got a lot planned for the fans who are going to come out.
Yeah, we really do. We're going to be free admission for all the women. Of course, is she the one? Is Rachel Alexandra the one? Free admission for women at the racetrack, and we'll be giving out pink bracelets to the first 10,000 paid admissions at the racetrack. And of course, Rachel Alexandra and Jess Jackson, very generous, donating money to the Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure for breast cancer.
It's a great cause, a great filly. It's going to be a great day here at Belmont Park. Please make your plans to attend the race with us this coming Saturday. And